What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the Trail Theory Podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Alex.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Pfeiffer.
Welcome back to another episode of the Trail Theory Podcast. Again, in the new studio for the second time tonight.
As long as the video works out.
As long as the video works out.
Yeah.
This might be on YouTube and it might not be. But tonight we're going to be talking about some documentaries we like and some publications that we like. And I think the thing that I was curious about is, are there documentaries that you guys have seen that I haven't? I want to know about them. And then also just kind of letting you all know like what we do in our spare time when we're not backpacking or researching or buying gear or that kind of thing, what we're watching. And what we're reading.
Generally I work.
No, outside of work.
I know, I'm just, you served it up so elegantly.
I think
like this.
You served it up well, and why I think this is a fun and cool episode is that, a lot of times these documentaries, they show people living a life or doing something that's like, way beyond of what we do. Like, it's fun what we do. Yeah. It's exciting what we do with backpacking. It's fun, but it's so inspiring. It can be inspiring or just like a crazy story. I love a good documentary.
Yeah. Or honestly, it can be a lesson of like, don't do that.
Or a lesson
sure.
of I mean, I think that like, especially over the last even like 6, 7, 8 years, the amount of like outdoor extreme style of documentaries have been exploded on the scene, right? And it's like multiple a year that are like really good and really interesting. So we're kind of in a golden era of that kind of
since like
content
2015
creation.
I've kind of noticed it was like when they first started kind of going out, like that became a thing.
Well, and also just the fact that cameras and
like,
the ability to go make something like right now we're in this just magical moment of filmmaking because anybody with a nice camera can go out and tell a story.
Think of what the GoPro did for like the ability to capture
completely
that adventure type stuff. It's just the access is like, well, anybody can just throw something on their head.
Out here, let me mount this to my helmet and let's go tell a story.
And all the how all the Red Bull stuff that came of that, the first person
Flute Dog
down the rabbit hole.
So part of it's been that, and but no, it was cool when we talked about this being the episode. I went through my Prime Video, my Amazon Prime Video history. Which, I didn't realize it tracked everything forever.
Man. It's Amazon, bro.
What all you got in there?
I was gonna say, dude. What are you?
But
can I delete this?
Let me delete the history for the last hour. Whammo!
I went through the history back to 2020, and I got.
You can see like.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
They call that the dark web.
But I picked out all the ones that I saw over the past few years. Since obviously we've been doing this since before 2020, but when COVID hit and everything, and this thing's kind of exploded, and we were just in our houses watching shit. My 2020 year is just chock full of everything.
That's true.
But I picked out all the stuff I watched that was outdoor hiking, backpacker related, and it was interesting to think back. It was like, oh yeah, I remember that, from 4 years ago. But I'd be interested. I don't think I probably haven't seen anything you haven't seen. Because normally when you and I, and any of us, but I think you and I especially,
share,
it's like, oh, I saw this, and then we're both watching it.
There's probably one
that has happened so many times.
Oh, yeah. It's ridiculous.
Where all of us watch the same documentary in the same night.
Well, and usually you guys are like,
done that a
you guys
lot.
should watch a show.
We've done that a lot.
You're right.
And then I'm like, oh, let me add it to my list.
And
I'm
then
like,
you
scrolling
watches it.
Alex
is not going to see any of these.
List. It's like 30
shows and all these things, but documentaries.
He still chooses to watch Survivor for some reason.
Documentaries, I do typically catch up on most of those, though. So.
Yeah. Something about a good documentary.
I do like a good documentary. I will say too, and I didn't think about bringing this up while we were going to talk about this, but short form content and like storytelling that brands are doing right now, I'm also really addicted to on YouTube. Yeah. And that's, that could be like Yeti has a really cool series of videos. Patagonia has some.
Huckberry.
I watch a Huckberry video every day, and I literally was looking today. I was like, how many more of these fuckers do I have to go until I hit the whole collection? And they're in Columbus. I mean, they're literally 2 hours south of us. And I'm just at one point, Huckberry, we're coming
Look us
for
up.
you. But I want to be your best friend. But anyway, I love their brand, love what they're doing. The storytelling is fantastic. And that's like, it's not even necessarily, I mean, it's like kind of like a docu-series, right? It's just storytelling and just kind of fun adventure type stuff. And that to me, I mean, I watched one today and I was just like, juiced.
It holds me over for when we don't get to go outside.
God, well said.
And like especially during the wintertime and stuff like that. Like it's just it allows you to be in the space without being in the space.
Yep. Get you in the mental sort of headspace of being out there and doing stuff.
I mean, I was 2 weeks ago out west. And last week and this week, I've been watching videos, and I'm like, "Damn, we got to get back." I'm like planning next year's trip, and like I'm like, I don't know if I can wait that long. I don't know if I can.
So let's. I mean, I don't know if we have a direction here specifically, but like, what's the last thing you watched? What's the most recent?
The most recent thing? Go ahead, Austin.
I watched something last night.
We talked about this on a previous podcast.
Did we?
We did talk about
last night.
We pulled it up on.
I thought you told us yesterday you watched Bluey.
Well, obviously, I watched Bluey, but no, I watched on National Geographic. I watched it through the Disney app, The Last Tapui. Which I hadn't seen before, and it's really, really good. It's only like an hour long. But have you guys seen this as well?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, cool. So
I have not.
Okay, so it's really incredible. Like, I think there's a little bit of a spoiler alert, not spoiler with these, because there's some documentaries.
Let's just call that out now. We're going to talk about these things. So
but also
we're going to talk about them.
But there's like one or two other documentaries I really don't want to spoil for anybody who wants to go out and see it. This one isn't. There's not like any like crazy surprises, but basically what it does is it follows this biologist named Dr. Bruce Means, and he's been, he's been an ecologist for, I probably said that word wrong.
Ecologist.
Thank you. For like 60 years, and he's been studying the rainforest and discovered a ton of reptiles and amphibians. And there's a certain section in Venezuela, deep in the jungle in South America, where there's like this plateau, this ridge, right? That no one's stepped foot in as far as they know, and he believes that there's like this special frog and maybe other type of animals that you could discover up there. But he's close to 80 years old. So the idea is he's gonna get these professional climbers to take him up the side of this wall, and so
like not just up the side of the wall,
it's like
through the jungle.
Not only through the jungle, but up a wall that's never been climbed before. So you're doing it for the first time, right? So
first ascent, baby.
First ascent of this wall. So that's the idea. And world famous Alex Holden is the
Honnold.
Is the one that joins with a group of other professional climbers. And
was Jimmy Chin in this shit?
He was not associated.
I don't think so.
No, he didn't direct it. He was a part of it. Believe me, I look, because Jimmy Chin is all over everything.
The best.
It's pretty incredible. So what happens in it, again, no really real spoilers, but this man is 80 years old.
Yeah.
And they're going through thick rainforest. I mean, it is like
ridiculous.
Machete level shit.
Level shit. I mean, you have to watch every step that you take, and he was pretty badass in it. I mean, there's parts where he's like sliding down and he's like huffing and crazy. But that does come to a point where they're like, listen, we need to go ahead and help with this first ascent. He needs to take a little bit more time because it's so strenuous. As they go forward, they realize like he can't do this. Because the whole idea was like, are we gonna climb up with him, kind of like a bag of gear? Are we gonna strap him up, like, because he can't climb like they do, and it's such an extreme wall. And there's a certain point where, where Alex Honnold does Alex Honnold things. Where he's like hanging off by like one hand, like so far up in the air. And it's like, you're thinking about it, you're like, there's no way this dude's like making it up there. But they like realize like the jungle was going to be too much for this man to go through. He's literally risking his life. And, but it's a really cool documentary. I like documentaries that kind of, it's not just a subject and they film it and that's what it is. There's a little bit of a story while they're filming it.
Right, completely.
You know what I mean? Where something changes,
and
something
especially,
goes on while they're doing it.
Right, especially this one where it's like it's that true. You don't have that very often anymore, where it's true discovery. Like that's the frontier. Like no one's been there. At least not
Unless
that they know of.
Right.
in Alaska.
So but he like Honnold is doing that climb and it's badass and he's amazing and does. But it's like he's out there and they're touching ground that like no one has been on before.
Exactly.
And that you don't
what
see
a
that
magnificent
much.
thought. I mean, seriously, think about
For real.
There, like, and I know there are spots in the world. I mean, like when we were at the Grand Canyon, that came up. Like there are parts down there in the Grand Canyon that
No
people have
one's
not
touched.
walked on.
Yeah.
And that fact. I mean, there's probably tons of spots, right?
Right.
But when you think about just coming up, like imagine just taking a stroll one afternoon, looking for food, and all of a sudden, wham, big wall, Grand Canyon, like holy shit. That discovery has to be just unreal.
Renan was
Turk?
one of the was it Ozturk?
I think it's just Turk. Renan Turk.
Is it? He was one of the directors of the Last Tempui.
Okay.
And so that makes sense because I would say most of the documentaries that I've watched that he's involved with are some of my favorite.
Really?
Him with Jimmy Chin and stuff like that. Like those two guys are always kind of together. And then
I'm sure
I
I've
think
seen
Mark.
some...
I'm going to say his last name incorrectly. I think, but I think it's Mark Synott. He was in that Last Tempui as well, and he's in another one that I was going to talk about. And he's a badass climber and videographer and cinematographer, and he's written a couple books and stuff like that on Everest, and he was involved with that project as well, and he does a really good job at storytelling.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love that. Damn. So you mentioned, and I've probably seen some of these ones, but that director for The Last Tempui, what are some of? Do you know some of the other ones off the top of your head that you like that you know that he's directed?
So not directed, but he's been involved with. So like Meru.
Yeah.
So Meru is one of the ones. Have you guys seen Meru?
Oh yes,
you have.
I actually have not.
You have not.
I have not.
That's
a great
but
one.
it's on. I it's
on your short list.
It's on my
Right, it's on
short
your short
list.
list.
Yeah.
So that one was released in 2015. That has Jimmy Chin was the director, and then his wife Elizabeth Chai, I think her name is, and so those two directed it. But it's Conrad Anker, who is one of the world's badass climbers.
One of the most elite.
Oh, I've seen this.
So fucking elite.
Yeah, I've seen Meru.
And then Jimmy and Renan, and those three are going up the shark fin.
That's right.
in the
Yeah.
Himalayas.
It's insane.
It's bonkers.
See,
and that is a first
when you
ascent.
talk about ones like it's like that's one where I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna watch that tonight.
Right.
Like it's so good.
I have seen
Oh,
that.
it's so good.
You know what's weird is so we started backpacking in 2018.
Yeah.
So I think I started watching.
Feels like an eternity.
I know. I think I started watching some of these documentaries maybe a little bit before that, and then when we started doing backpacking, it amplified, and so I think I watched that. I don't know, 100 times for real, like for real. And I never,
my friend, you have a problem.
dude, for real, I do. I never ever wanted to do like an Everest trek. I've never wanted to do like cold mountain stuff, and like I wasn't a fan of being cold. And I started watching some of these things, and Meru was one of the docs that like got me heavy hard into it.
That was it, huh?
And
that ruined your life.
it ruined my life. And now this year I'm doing my first mountaineering trip and going up Rainier and doing the whole thing, like starting that whole thing.
I thought when you were telling us and pitching us on going on that trip with you, it's not a mountaineering trip. Now it's a mountaineering trip.
No. That is for sure a mountaineering trip. Rainier is a mountaineering trip.
He was trying to.
He was trying to get us to go.
He was trying. He was pitching.
The
He's like,
Everest,
dude, it's
the
like- it's just
Everest
like
base
backpacking.
camp trek is not a mountaineering trip.
Not yet. Until
It's
you
not.
book it.
Until you go up.
Yeah,
No.
Kung Pao beef. It's not that bad.
I will say Meru is probably one of my favorite documentaries.
It's
like
good.
by far.
It's good. So I want to touch on something, and this is I hadn't really thought about this, but it came to light. I guess when we started kind of getting serious about backpacking stuff and a little more intentional with our outdoors activities. But so you say the Last Tempui. I'm thinking about other things, and I think about brands, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of remember like thinking years and years and years ago as like a kid, you know, I don't know, I've always had this kind of like affinity for Patagonia for whatever reason. Just thought the brand was cool. And I didn't really know anything about it other than like there were some kids at school that wore it and I thought, it's just cool. Like I wish I'd kind of be that kind of vibe or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I remember realizing or recognizing like, oh, Patagonia, like it's a place. And then, you know, the brand like K2 it's a mountain.
Place. Yeah.
And so all of those things, Tenpui is, I mean, it got bought, but it used to be one of those rooftop tent companies.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I think Thule bought it. But at any rate, I'm just, sometimes I see those names and I'm like, yeah, fucking of course. Yeah, dude. Patagonia, dumbass. Like, but
just to the North Face, even.
Yeah.
Like the North Face of
100%. And so I think about those brands and I'm like, well, yeah, man, that's the obvious choice. I mean, like, but it's incredible to me how many brands have kind of built themselves off of these places.
Right.
And then learning about the places and the magic and the mystique of all these things. And it's just very cool. And so when we've said a couple of things already that just kind of spark that feeling. And
so we almost need to make a brand called Meru.
I get sure. Hey, why not?
Why not?
There's plenty of mountains out there. Pick one.
2 syllables, yeah.
There's plenty of mountains out there.
Yeah, right.
Might be a little harder to say, but you know, K2 is pretty easy.
I mean, Patagonia's got a nice ring.
But K2 isn't the name of the mountain.
Cotopaxi is another one. You know.
Yeah.
Love me some Cotopaxi.
Is Cotopaxi out? Like, what's it named after something?
I don't know what it's named.
It is,
and I've listened to the document, how it built or whatever the podcast is on.
I like that brand.
I do too, and I think they're doing a nice job of like they're being really earth conscious, very sustainable, and really being thoughtful about the materials and goods, and
they're very colorful.
Yeah,
well, that's
that
their whole thing with their apparel and their bags and stuff like that is like they have a bunch of the colors, and then they just kind of throw the pieces together. So almost every jacket or bag is unique because of that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Which
it's
is
cool.
neat.
It's cool. We have some stuff of theirs and it's
Topo does that a little bit too.
Yeah, Topo's cool too.
Topo Design. They do a lot of the kind of mixed colors and stuff like that.
Topo a place?
No, Topo is
Topography.
just like typography.
Oh,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Topo. Yeah.
This guy's out of Denver.
Yeah. But I mean, on the Meru front, I mean, there's others on my list that I was looking back.
The Barbie show. Your prime list.
Between those, yeah. But way before, so before Meru, I think, and it was as we were getting into backpacking, but we were coming off climbing.
Yeah.
So and talking about Honnold, Free Solo was like, that was my first like holy shit documentary.
That's kind of my like I've watched that one so many times.
So Free Solo came out in 2018.
Okay.
Oh, so it was after Meru?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I remember that. I watched that before I watched Meru.
I always thought Free Solo was
same.
the fucking crown jewel, and everything fell from that.
What a fucking
what a monster.
Alex is. We've talked about Alex. He's in a lot of these documentaries that we like to. That guy is a fucking freak. He is. He's. I would say the GOAT.
It turns my stomach
when it comes to
I mean
climbing.
it
I would say so.
He's
it hurt. It like
sensational.
It's an intense thing to watch.
I've watched it so many times, and every single time I do, it
palm sweat
makes me sweat and makes me like cringe. Like I was watching the last Tenpui last night, and there was the point where he like, so there was this one point on the first ascent where they had to like get around this what they call a roof, which is when there's a part of the wall where it jets over. Getting some pirate's booty
overhang.
out there. It's like an overhang.
Yep.
And
coin.
He's like, all right, I got to get up there and try to figure out like how we're going to get around it. And he's doing these moves where he is like swinging around with two hands and just like he was hanging off with one hand. And like, I'm like, my wife was looking at me like, what are you watching? I'm like, it's just rock climbing, but like, it's making me like so like nervous. And it's crazy.
He's so comfortable on the rock.
He's composed.
And composed, but he's roped in, so he is not afraid to make those fucking ridiculous moves,
he's
dude.
like I mean, obviously he's done crazy stuff.
He's so calculated with
stuff. So like free soloing is a climbing without a rope, without a rope.
So
no
let's
safety protection
let's touch on that though. So we've talked about it a little bit. So Free Solo.
Yes.
Give us some background to Free Solo. We've all seen it, but for the watchers or for the viewers.
So
and,
viewers
and
and watchers,
listeners,
and viewers.
Viewers and listeners now.
I would assume that if at this point, if you're a listener, we've talked about it. I feel like it's popular enough that that's the one you would watch. But give some breakdown.
We usually talk more about hiking, backpacking, so it's very much rock climbing specific.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, obviously Alex Honnold, one of the world's best
outdoor. It's an outdoor
climbers.
Adjacent activity.
Yes, and so it's his. Free solo is rock climbing without any protection, and he did
Free Rider, which is a route on El Cap.
Right. So he did
in Yosemite.
And so he did El Cap unprotected. He just walked up to it, climbed it. And I think there was one.
Well, he didn't just walk up and. He was very.
He took
a long time,
months.
He studied the face of it and ran it, with protection many times. But he went from the bottom to the top without a rope. There was one like where I think he used a leash because you have to.
You cannot successfully ascent with
it wouldn't be a free solo.
No, there was definitely.
I thought there was a section where
he was nervous.
No, okay, so
wasn't there a section where he had to do something?
So he started. So for anyone that's seen it, he started doing it, and then got to a point during like one of the slabs where he's like, I don't want to do this. Like I'm just not feeling it. So he did take one of the quick draw holds and pull himself to the rock, and then he called in to the rest of the team, Jimmy and everybody else, and said, "I'm not feeling it. I'm done."
Yeah,
and so they went back down.
Okay.
So he stopped the first attempt that he did.
I guess I'm gonna have to watch it again.
And so when he went up, he didn't do any of, and there was zero assist.
Okay.
No.
The second time.
So there is a section, like an extremely difficult section that he like worked on forever.
The diamond
that's
section.
what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's because you can't. It's not a free solo.
Yeah,
it does not
if you
count.
do anything like that.
Yeah.
All I know is I went to Yosemite 3 years ago, and when I laid my eyeballs
on El Cap,
and we did it the right way. We came. There's like a certain road. I forget the road, but you come in and it's like
you come
around the bend and like it fucking comes out of the trees, and like I can't explain. And I had seen Free Solo at that point, and I remember seeing this fucking slab of rock, and you just look at it, and it makes no sense. Seriously, it's one of the most unexplainable things I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. I look at it, and it's like there's absolutely, and like you see the little areas where like I'm assuming people like set camp up and just watch the man climb the wall.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I there's a part of me that thinks about that and says, if it's kind of like the eclipse, where if I knew that this guy was going to try this again, dude, I'm getting me a fucking lawn chair, bag of Doritos, and I'm going to fucking watch this shit.
And that's, man, I don't know.
It's insane.
I don't know if I'd be too nervous to watch, to be honest.
In
real time.
Touches on that
they talk
in the
about that
in the episode. Yeah.
So the people filming are like, there's the one dude that's like, I
can't watch.
This could be it. We could watch him
I'm not
die.
doing this again.
It's not. These aren't random people that Alex and Jimmy had just like said, okay, yeah, you're a video guy. You can come in and do this. Every single one of those guys are friends of Alex's.
Yeah.
And so like if something goes wrong, you're literally witnessing your friend die.
And I think, and I think
without anything you can do.
I think he touches on it at one point, but he basically, at a certain point,
it was during the dyno.
Climber. Yeah, as the climber, it's like you recognize there is no mess up and be okay.
Right.
So we mentally have to get past that point where it's like, yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, there's no, I'm still afraid.
Well, he kind of says he's accepted, like, that might happen.
So you can still have fear, but you have to recognize at the same time it's not serving you any purpose because you're already past the point where you're going to survive anything.
They scan his brain in the documentary, and you can clearly see that his brain doesn't react to fear like a normal brain does.
Person,
right. Yeah.
Well, so his ability to compartmentalize that and just be like, turn it off.
Not only that,
nuts.
but like you're doing it with all these people that are around you videoing it, because that's a whole nother thing, right? Because like some of the solos that he had done before that, like there wasn't a camera crew, there weren't all these people around. Right. He just did it.
Yeah, he's done a lot of free solos before.
That kind of takes me to that. I compare Free Solo a lot with the documentary The Alpinist, which to me is like one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah,
for different reasons, because what's funny is, so if you have The Alpinist is an unbelievable documentary. It actually starts off with Alex Honnold, and Alex Honnold's like, if there's one person that's more badass than me, it's this dude. And he's talking about Marc-Andre Leclerc.
Yeah.
And this dude is a free soloer of ice climbing.
Yeah.
So like he's basically doing the same thing, but it's like ice picks and that's it. And the biggest difference though is that Mark doesn't want to really be filmed. He doesn't have a phone.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a car. He just wants to climb. And it's interesting because like this is another one of those documentaries where the story and what happens throughout the documentary and them filming is the best part of the story, because he's crazy elusive. Like the director and the documentary, they're like, we're trying to get a hold of him. We don't know where he is. He might be in this area of the world. He might be over here. Let's try to figure it out. Because like he basically said, hey, you guys can like film me or whatever. And then he kind of disappears. And so they're trying to like find him, you know? And again, like it's pretty insane. It's pretty intense. It's one of those ones I don't want to talk about how it ends and how it goes, because I think it's a good, like you want, if you haven't seen The Alpinist, you need to watch it. And it's pretty incredible. It's similar nerves, but it's not. It's different because not every single move is on film like Free Solo was.
Yeah.
That was a different type of queasy because you literally saw every little crux.
It is very difficult to film in those types of areas too, because like when you are ice climbing, like with you know Jimmy and his team for El Cap, like they were able to get on top of the mountain no problem. And they were able to string up a bunch of ropes and stuff like that, and they were able to place a bunch of cameras.
They're pretty comfortable on a wall.
Yeah. With this, it's just a different atmosphere. It's a different environment, and it's harder to film in, I think, in that environment.
It's harsher, yeah. For sure.
Way harsher. And your batteries die faster because it's cold, and there's a lot of difficulties.
And
that
your
come up with
subject
that.
doesn't want to be filmed.
Yeah, and your
He's literally running away from you.
Yeah. Another one, speaking of El Cap, that's so amazing is the Don Wall, right?
Yeah.
Like the Don Wall is unbelievable. And that's, what's his name?
Tommy Caldwell. And Kevin Jorgensen.
Yeah.
Dude, the Don Wall, that was, I think, so Don Wall came out a year before El Cap. Or, I'm sorry, a year before Free Solo.
Right.
So, came out in 2017. And I think I watched them, I think I did watch them out of order. I think I watched Free Solo first. And then watched the Don Wall.
I think I like, and I need to rewatch them because I can't remember. I think I like the Don Wall the best.
Did you? It told an additional story. There was a lot more involved with it because it talked about Tommy's background and like him starting out as a kid and how he was, you know, very awkward, and his teachers like thought that he had like some mental problems.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. He was just kind of a shy guy. But it goes through like his entire climbing career up into the point of them doing Don Wall, which
incredible,
which has never ever been climbed before him. Like he literally created this route.
Yeah,
it took such a long time for him to connect all these pieces, and it's on a part of El Cap that is so blank and so smooth.
Dude, it's so flat.
Yes, it is crazy that these guys were even able to accomplish this.
It's insane. And the amount of to me, like that initially is crazy, but what's even crazier too is like the amount of time that they spent on the wall at one time.
Yeah.
Like not coming down.
Out.
They can't. They were. I mean, how long were they
on the portal ledge? I was trying to see if I put it in my notes, and I don't think I did. They were on there for
like
a few weeks.
Longer than 10 days.
I think it was longer than 10 days for sure.
Because if you remember, they talk about like the emotional like toll that they're just waiting.
Yes.
Right. They're fucking waiting.
Because for a while, Kevin was having trouble with
it's like
one
the
of the
size of a
sections.
sleeping pad. Like, I mean, they're
on a portal
ledge.
On a portal ledge.
Nothing to.
You're
going nowhere.
You're in a
you're
little
sitting in the same spot. Yeah.
Taking all that gear up with you too, like your sleeping stuff with you and your food and everything like that up with you.
Yeah, you're hauling it up.
Yeah. To a certain point.
There was the one section. It was like an extremely thin like crazy.
It's the
ledge,
traverse.
The
Yeah.
traverse.
Yeah.
And like there was that part of the documentary where they kept falling and falling and falling.
Yeah, they're trying and trying.
Tommy got through it, and he was like, "You keep going." Who's
Kevin
the partner?
Jorgensen.
Kevin,
Mm-hmm.
was like, "I gotta figure this out. You go do that. I gotta figure this out." And Kevin eventually.
And
gets
Kevin wasn't a big wall climber. Because so I read Tommy's book about it too, and there's a lot more details about like their background. Like Kevin and Tommy didn't know each other before the Don Wall. Like Tommy was trying to figure out like who he was going to do this project with because it was so impossible and it was so far fetched that people were like, "Dude, you're never going to do that. Like it's not a possibility. Like it's not going to happen." So he was like trying to find anybody.
Have, like 10 full fingers.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
not
got some
anymore.
stubbies.
He has I mean, it's incredible. Like it's just so insane.
I can't remember what hand it is, but he had an
It's
accident.
Like this.
Yeah.
It's like
It cut almost it's
index
half
and
of his
his
index
thumb.
finger. No,
Yeah.
he's got his thumb. It's
Does he?
just his
Yeah.
index finger.
Okay.
I think you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But I'm picturing like this.
Which
But
I mean, for climbing
that's
is
a
like
crucial part because when you
It's
go through and you
crazy.
do those little ledges, you have to pull your thumb over top of those fingers, and that's what creates that hold.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And to not have that, like you have to really, he had to learn how to reclimb.
Crazy.
right.
yeah,
I mean, if you
yeah.
look at how he uses that hand,
It's
it's
wild.
wild compared to like what you know how it.
He
Climber
became a better
would-
climber
Yeah.
with less fingers.
He adapted to not
He's
having
the only
the,
climber
you
that
know,
does that.
Insane.
It's wild seeing what people can.
I
And I mean, it takes a certain type of person. I mean, obviously he was. It's like they recognize, like, well, he's a little different as a kid. It's like he's just, I don't know, genetically
He is a
predisposed
world-class
to
climber,
like
too.
just do that thing. Or
Yeah.
and the from the one you mentioned, the alpinist,
Yeah.
where it's like he's a recluse and all he wants to do is. It takes a very special kind of person to it's just. I just want to go climb. I want to go on climb high things. That's my life. And
Yeah.
it's that's atypical.
Those dudes
Most people
have
don't
passion
do that.
like no one else.
I don't have any, desire to go rock climbing. But I
that
think
makes me sad.
Well, no, because it's I'm so impressed and respect everybody who does that, and I think that's why like we keep talking about obviously like most of the stuff is like a lot of that rock
Right.
climbing aspect,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
it's adjacent to what we do. It's the outdoors. It's somewhat like we do, but like to the most extreme, and I just admire it so much and respect it so much. I don't have any
when it comes
desire,
to
and it's cool because
when it comes to
people do it.
documentaries, it's good fodder, I guess, for that because it's exciting, it's dramatic, it's intense.
Yeah,
right?
and I think it's interesting, and because Austin, I think for the most part I agree with you, but I think on the other side of the coin, for me at least, I think I mentioned this at one point a number of episodes ago. It's been a while. Like a good trip doesn't necessarily need to be a hard trip.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think that's where I'm
Right.
kind of like, I want to just totally agree with you where it's like, dude, I'm not doing that hard shit. Like, not because I don't like hard challenges, but it's just some of the things that I think about when I think about climbing are so extravagant
Right, right.
that it's like, I'm never going to get there.
Well,
so
it's-
why
yeah.
even try?
It's relative, right? So, like, I
Totally.
think challenging, for me is a little bit different. I don't have to like risk everything in order to like get that challenge. But again, it's
Right.
like that's why it's a fun watch because it's like it's so
inc-
much
it's
is
incredible.
on the line and it's so impressive and
Puts you
yeah.
outside of a space that you're
That even seems
remotely
possible.
comfortable. Yeah, I mean, it's even as like because when we were climbing and as someone who's climbed a wall and done that process, seeing free solo, seeing Meru, seeing all these, still puts me in like a just jaw dropped. holy
you're in awe for
So
sure.
let me ask
It's-
this, and I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. Does anyone know, do we know how high El Cap is?
we do not offhand, but we could find out.
Pull it
pretty
up.
quickly.
And I say that because I was just at Canyonlands, and we did a trail, and it was a
Indiana land?
it was a sheer rock, and like I always think on these trips, whenever I'm out there, I think to myself, oh man, that's something like, dude, Alex Honnold will eat this for breakfast.
7,573 feet.
That's
7,500
ridiculous.
feet.
Like,
bonkers.
dude, I think we were on, I think it said like, 1,000 feet or something like that. Dude, 7,000.
Half Dome is 8,839 feet, and Alex free soloed that too.
Yeah.
Dude, the man is crazy.
Wait, that doesn't.
Didn't he do 3 in one? 3 in one night?
Are we sure
Or
it's
3 hours? He did El Cap,
I'm looking at it right now.
Half Dome, and
I don't think he did all 3 of those.
he did 3 in one in 24 hours.
I don't think it was. I think it was. He did that. He definitely did 3 in 24 hours, but it wasn't. It was a section in Yosemite. I thought though it wasn't those.
I have to look back and see. Well, yeah, he was. He's ridiculous.
Does anybody else? I don't. This is such a weird, random thought. When you are perceiving distance or height, height for me specifically,
difficult.
Well, no. What I do when I'm like trying to like in my mind put a perspective to it, I always think of a 10-foot basketball hoop. Because like I grew up playing basketball, so like to me, I can picture 10 feet like really easily in my mind. And then when I think of something like 7,500 feet, I'm like that's 700.
I was going to say, can you picture 700 basketballs?
I'm like 750 basketballs. So I'm like trying to like in my head like kind of like stack them up. I'm like, holy shit, that's insane.
Imagine hanging from a 10-foot. Listen, this is going to be funny. I remember when I moved from my old house, we had like a 3rd floor, like a little like crescent window, whatever. And like to move, we had to like get it up to code and just like paint the little window. 3rd floor. Like it was like just my attic. I didn't have a 3rd floor. It was the attic like window, whatever. I couldn't paint that shit. I went up on that ladder and I remember like looking down. I'm like, nope.
That stuff doesn't bother me. You should have called me. I would have done it for you.
I got halfway up there and I remember looking down. I'm like, Allison.
Not doing it.
Not
gonna be me.
And I remember getting that ladder thinking like, and I was safe. I mean, I felt real confident about it. And it wasn't getting up there. I just couldn't get over. It just felt really high.
Yeah.
This is 3rd floor.
Brian would have come over and harnessed up and thrown a rope around the chimney.
For real, I've done a rope and harness around my chimney before because I've got a pretty steep roof. It's a huge pitch. And it's got we have a finished attic, so it is 3 floors, and I've had to go down on one side of my my roof to get down to another platform, and in order to do that, I did have to rope up.
That's when it's nice to know how to
down to my chimney, and I was like ready to go.
Yeah. Alex's documentary is going to be called The Dawn Step.
Yeah. No, mine's just going to be a long road trip.
There was a documentary I just watched yesterday and finished today. It's called Mile and a Half. And it is not a climbing documentary. It is not a mountaineering documentary.
And the title is awesome.
It is awesome. And they titled it that because, and they say it right in the beginning, it's like a typical hiker answer when someone asks how much further it is.
About a mile, mile and a half.
Perfect.
Yeah,
that's
perfect.
Great.
It's so good.
We're going to make a sticker with that.
Just up over that ridge. Yeah.
So this is.
You're so close. That's why you never fucking ask, man.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Never ask. When someone asks, I'm like, I just want to bang my head against a tree. Like, why?
So
you're so close.
They released it in 2013, so it's an older documentary. I was just because to prep for the episode, I was like, all the ones I have on here are like extreme, like 14 peaks.
14. I was going to bring up that one.
We'll talk about 14 peaks. Lost on Everest. That one's a fucking awesome documentary too. I want to talk about that as well. Free Solo, Meru, like they're all extreme shit, and they're all mountaineering and rock climbing documentaries. So I was like, what's a backpacking documentary? So I was like trying to look up like backpacking documentaries, and this one came up as like a lot of thru hikers' favorites, and it's about 5 friends that leave their daily lives behind and hike the historic John Muir Trail.
Yep.
So it is a 211-mile stretch from Yosemite to Mount Whitney, and they did it in 25 days. It is very good. It's very well done. The one thing that is dumbfounding to me is their pack sizes in this thing.
Monster trucks. They huge.
The lightest pack was 55 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
So,
how many days?
25.
That's silly.
So
their backs
what
probably
they
looked like a barrel of snakes when they were done.
Yeah,
so
like
these guys
ripped.
These guys
were
brought,
they all named Nick?
No. These guys brought
shout out Nick.
huge cameras. They brought tripods.
Oh, okay.
That's going to be me on the next trip. I feel like
they brought sliders, like a video slider. And one of the guys there, and I can relate to him because we kind of do this when we do the podcast on the trail. He brought like a bunch of audio equipment and like interfaces.
So a lot of it is more like the production of the documentary. And it was like a cast iron skillet.
They wanted to capture as much as they could on the trail. They wanted to capture the beauty of it. They wanted to capture images. They wanted to capture videos, the sound of it all. It was really well done, and it was about backpacking, and it made me like think about 25 days, 211 miles. That's kind of doable, man. Like that's an extreme trip, and it takes a long time. There's a husband and wife that did it. They had a small child that they left at home with some relatives, and they did this thing. And
so you're saying we have a chance?
Listen, man.
The stuff that they were going
when my
through,
mother-in-law retires,
dude.
I'm in.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. That trail is beautiful.
Yeah. I would spend 25 days on
25 days?
Man.
Yes.
I'd 100% do that.
I mean, I just spent 9 nights in a tent, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
And there was creature comforts between, but
I don't want to carry 55 pounds.
Yeah, 55 pounds.
Well, we wouldn't be carrying that much weight.
Man.
We were not going to be doing like the amount of stuff that they were doing like that.
During that time, so 25 days, I mean, you don't, even when you do the Appalachian Trail, you don't go that far without reloading. I assume they had spots, right?
They had 4 resupplies.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. They had 4 resupplies.
If you're carrying food for 25 days, not even taking into account the equipment and stuff,
you can't.
I mean, you can't.
That'd be a ton. That'd be a ton.
That's 55
I was going to
pounds.
say, like, that's crazy.
I mean, I can't even. That'd be interesting. I'm curious to
55
see.
burgers, 55 fries, 55 pounds.
I found that video.
I got everyone's going to get that.
Yeah, but I did.
Thank you.
I found the video on YouTube. You can find the full version on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then I think there's like another subscription thing that you can pay for on Amazon Video or Prime Video or something. I didn't do that. I just watched it on YouTube, and it was great. So mile and a half.
Mile and a half. That's good.
Noted.
That was good.
Noted. I like that one.
It's an hour. It's an hour and a half.
That reminds me.
Well, it reminds me of something too.
Oh, go ahead.
So
go ahead.
It's not those words at all. I don't know why this comes to mind,
Quarter
but it reminds
half
me
pound.
of coming across that group where at the Whites where the leader was just so far ahead.
Oh yeah.
And then we talked about it on another.
Do we talk about?
They do that. They kind of just go. Everyone goes at their own pace.
Ooh.
And they kind of leave people behind. And one of the guys,
ebb and flow,
not to ruin it, but one of the guys, like maybe 9 days in, he's like, "Yeah, this is not for me.
Oh, really?
I'm done."
That's crazy.
And he stops.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
You know what though, and I hate to say this, and I mean maybe we'll never find out, but like we could go on a 25-day trip, and one of us could do that.
Yeah, could happen.
Do you think one of us would do? I don't think one of us would drop out.
I don't know.
think so.
We've never been there, Brian. And listen.
Like without getting hurt or anything, and just be like, yeah, this is not what
I'm
I
not
like.
saying it's not for me. I'm saying it more so like, and I think it also gives me so much more respect for the people that do
like through hiking.
Sparks. Shout out. Like that's a long time.
Yeah.
To be doing something.
Yeah.
To be doing anything.
Yeah,
and like
dude.
you talk about
6
like
months, 4 months.
the portaledge like for a week or two.
Yep.
Dude, like that whether you're with someone or not.
That would have gotten to me.
I remember
that's lonely.
I remember the first
Could be lonely.
The first season of Alone that I ever watched.
Yeah.
There was one dude that I was banking on winning, and they were pretty decently far into the contest. He had the most food.
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
I know
the
you're
most
talking about.
comfortable. He was the most experienced and badass. And I was like, this dude's gonna win it all. And one day he was like, I can't sit here anymore. He's like, there's nothing else to do. I have everything I need, but I just can't be alone, and I just can't be here and do this anymore. And he gave up, and I was like, what are you doing? But like, you don't know when you're in those situations, like how you're going to react. I would probably, so 25 days sounds fun. That sounds great. I probably wouldn't even do that trip, at least right now in my life, because I don't want to be away from home, from my kids and stuff. Like
Right.
even if they were taken care of, like I just wouldn't want to do that comfortably. That's a trip I would want to do when they're like adults.
Yeah.
And maybe they would come with me.
And especially
rather than now.
Especially in that show too, because it's like not only are you alone and you're dealing with all that stuff, even if you have a good setup, but you don't know how much longer it's going to go.
Yeah,
like, that's
not
the whole
in
point of
that
the
show,
game.
you don't.
No, you're right.
It could be another 2 hours. It could be another 2 months. Like, you have no clue.
Sure.
And at a point, you probably just, it's like, dude, I'm done, man.
Yeah.
And whereas if you know, it's like, I got 2 more weeks.
So. Yeah.
You know, it's easier to comprehend. Like, I can do this.
I think there are certain like pieces of it that you could pound through. Don't get me wrong, but again, like, what's the longest trip we've done? 3 nights.
Yeah.
Technically, right? Yeah. We've done, it's 4 nights with a stay in the car or right at the trailhead.
3 nights on trail. Yeah.
I mean, that's a long fucking time to be, setting up the tent, setting up the pad. Like,
right.
I don't know. And again, I'm not diminishing it. I'm interested.
See, that doesn't bother me at all. Like like I would eat like food like that, set up the tent like that, walk like that all day, like go through the grind of that. It's more of just the being away.
Right. Yeah,
that's the biggest.
But again, that I think weighs into it, right? Like that would be one of the reasons where it's just like I just don't want to do this anymore. And I'm not saying indefinitely like, oh, someone in our group, but I don't know, what are the odds? What are the odds? Like how many people start long trips like that and just bail?
Well, we know when you look at the AT, it's is it 1 in 4? I think that actually completed. There is a percentage, and it's not high.
That's what I'm saying. Like maybe it's like 4, right?
Maybe it's like one of those things that like people like they go to Vegas and they're like, oh my god, I love it, and I want to live here. But like if you were there for more than like 6 days, you'd want to, you'd hate it. You wouldn't want to be there anymore.
I literally want to eat Kung Pao beef or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know somebody whose parents like love Vegas and they would go there all the time. And when they retired, they moved there. Within 6 months, they moved back.
Yeah.
Because they realized that like. Maybe I don't want to live here. Right. This is more of a vacation. But again, this is like, I mean, we're getting into like a totally different subject and a different mindset of like, what that could be like.
Yeah, right.
But that being said, it'd be dope to do 25 days.
Dude,
I think I can do it.
They said every day. Like every day. When you think that was the most beautiful thing I saw, the next day, it tops.
Yeah.
Like every day was the next best day.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, they did a great job capturing the trail.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it was worth it with the 55 pounds that the
Well, that was the minimum weight. The one other guy, 75 pounds, dude.
God.
After a resupply.
No.
After a resupply, he was just shy under 75 pounds.
What?
That noise.
Give me 19 pounds of frozen pierogies.
For real.
Let's go.
I'm just trying to understand, like,
I can't even.
And like, don't get me wrong,
that.
like, I carry camera stuff. 75 pounds.
But this guy was like, think about it. You've said if you could carry one thing and it didn't weigh down your packer, you would carry a tripod, right?
Yeah, but that's not 25, 30
he
pounds.
also was carrying a slider for the camera.
Was he yoked?
No.
And it's 11 years ago.
I will say none of the people
it wasn't even like, oh no, he had like a little bit of a build. You were like, no.
None of the people in the video were like beast moding it. They were like everyday people.
How many miles a day were they? I mean, what's the math out to? 25?
You know what? I didn't really.
So I also think we need to say
they
something.
went through
though.
snow a lot too. I mean, there was like 9 days of sections where they were going through the snow.
I think we need to reconcile something. And I think this is what it's proving out to me a little bit more. We're more ultralight as a group than we care to admit.
I'm starting to get away from it a little bit more, but I don't disagree. I agree.
But if you think about the people that we see on the trail, think
yes.
about every trip we've ever gone on.
40
we see motherfuckers
what are you doing?
with packs that look like the Eiffel Tower, man. It's like, what are you doing with that, dog?
For most
we're
people,
a little snobby when it comes to the ultralight.
For most people,
sure.
We are.
For most people doing what we're doing, 40 pounds is probably on the low end, and that's like unheard of for us.
Yeah, if we were hitting 40, we like, bruh.
Was wrong.
That was like first trip stuff.
Yeah, what are you doing?
We were all above 40 on the first trip.
Yeah,
no,
it was
insane.
But I think I was like 30.
I was less.
Okay,
I was 34,
But
35.
consider this.
That's before I got into ultralight.
Consider going on the first trip, coming back and saying, "Man, that was awesome. We had a blast."
We did.
And then just saying, "Oh my, I'm good with my gear.
Good with
I
this.
have
Good.
that.
Yeah, I'm good
I
with
have
this.
a knife. I have a pack. I have a this.
I have 3 pairs of pants I don't need.
No one's ever done anything the first time and been like, that was it?
Yeah.
Perfect setup.
But my point is, that's what I'm assuming
I
some
know,
people
I know.
do that, right?
No. I think the people we're seeing out there are probably out there for the first time.
I mean, we saw someone with a fucking cast iron skillet.
Listen, all right, hold on. Let's talk about that for a sec, because he didn't go out on that trip saying, you know what, my kit is refined to perfection.
But
that's
my point.
No. He went out there because he's like, we're going to cook.
Yeah.
He's like, we're going to go out and we're going to camp and we're going to cook.
I agree.
I just bought a skillet last night, 2.5 ounces.
Yeah, but it's not a cast iron.
Okay.
Okay, what? I get it. And that's where we're snobs.
We are.
He's been seasoning that baby for 12 years.
I'm still here.
That motherfucker hasn't seen us drop a dawn.
I'm so happy that you're the one that brought this up, because you guys gave me so much shit for the last 2 or 3 years about the ultralight thing.
Oh, it's
For
not
the
going to
last,
stop.
I was gonna say we never stopped.
No,
You're
it's not-
now
and it won't
admitting
stop.
that you are also an ultralight
Hold
snob.
on. It's not
Ultralight
I don't make
conscious.
fun of
But
you.
it's
You're
all
a snob
relative.
with
But
it.
I've never been ultralight.
None of us have.
I
Hold on, though.
agree, I
It's
agree.
not, Brian, it's not the, you're so light and you care about being light. It's the tracking of the weight that is hilarious.
Yeah, that you have to do that. If
You're just
How do
very.
you know?
You just have a very different.
If you
How do you
carried
know?
a 50-pound pack, you would still have every ounce accounted for on your lighted pack.
That is true.
The clownness that we give
That
you.
is true.
Not
That's
the
the
fact
fun.
that
But
you're trying to be 11 pounds.
You're the one that started. You guys found the lighter pack thing. I just did my own thing on a spreadsheet.
We came
That's
to
even worse.
it later. I'm not going to deny that.
I just did it the harder way.
I created my own program.
Yeah, but I think
It's
I
prettier.
think my point is, and again, I'm sitting here saying I think on the next trips I'm going to be heavier.
I'm gonna be heavier.
I'm bringing more camera gear than I think I've ever brought.
I'm bringing a camera for the first time in 2 weeks. We'll see
And
what
we're gonna
happens.
bring-
and 3
and-
batteries.
And we talked about, we might bring steaks. It's going to be a comfort
I
trip.
am bringing a steak. That's
Yeah.
right.
We'll just,
I think I
Try it out.
similar too, but I also like feel physically great, and that
Right.
Yeah,
could
that
it
help me
helps.
a
It
little
helps.
bit.
That
We're
helps.
all
the,
in
the
better
type of trip,
physical shape.
the type of trip plays into it. What you're trying to get,
I'm also using
Out of the trip plays
the next
into it.
trip as like a workout for Rainier too.
Yeah.
So like I'm kind of purposefully making my pack heavier.
I will say this.
Bring that weighted
just because
vest.
of that.
I will say this: if the weather forecast is less favorable, I will take less stuff. Camera gear.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if it says
If
it's going to
gonna be
rain,
dumping rain.
I'm going to probably bring less.
Honestly,
but
if the forecast is like it's just going to dump rain the whole time, I think we just pivot. We go somewhere else.
no.
I think you're right. I mean, when we did the whites, I had 2 cameras.
Oh, that's right. You did. You had
Boy,
your film
oh
camera in your
So
R5.
and I'm planning on bringing more than that on the next one.
You're planning on bringing more than 2 cameras?
2 cameras, but a bigger. The second one, the film camera, will be bigger.
I'm so
Long as-
glad I don't have that
Long
hobby.
as, long as you bring those pot stickers.
Well, that's part of why I'm bringing the pan.
Right.
Well, we're going to use the pan for the steak too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also, Austin, you don't.
You
know
should have
this.
asked me. I have a pan.
Hey, why did you? I think we were just like fing around on like during the meeting. What was it
Yeah,
last
we were
night?
looking,
Yeah, it was
and I was
was
like,
it last
well, I
night?
gotta
Full
look.
disclosure,
2 minutes
I'm
ago.
not going on this trip.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
yeah,
have a
that's
trip.
right. We have
We do have a
Amendment.
small. We have a small, more local. It's in Pennsylvania trip coming up in a couple weeks that the three
Yeah.
of us are going
Yeah,
on.
I was kind of like, oh, this would be great for pot stickers, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get one.
Right.
Yeah.
It's small. It's not.
Nice.
It's not very big.
That's yeah. Same.
and then I'm gonna get.
I think
I
it's a little
also
smaller than yours.
I think I'm gonna. Well, I've already jumped. I'm in it. I'm gonna bring a little Taco Bell snack on that one.
Wait, hold on. That's the last thing I
Such
want.
a bad idea.
We were talking about documentaries. Why are we talking about food again?
I know. I don't know how.
Yeah, well,
God.
Well, we started talking about a
only
backpacking
one thing we have
documentary.
to talk
and got
about
into it.
left.
Yeah.
Now is to talk about backpacking.
Let's talk
Yep.
about shit. No, so
There's-
I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Everest.
14 Peaks or ever. Well,
Because there's if you go
Well, we've only
anywhere-
talked about one backpacking thing so
It's
far.
true. I will say,
It's
and
all
one thing I
adjacent.
noticed, even the stuff I've watched, and you commented a little bit on it. Backpacking as opposed to climbing and mountaineering and stuff, it's not as sexy when it comes to a documentary. It just isn't. Like
People walking in the woods,
right? It's
Less
not as
dangerous.
intense. So
True.
when you look, when the stuff we
danger
read,
makes that stuff cool.
the stuff we read and the stuff we see, we got Walk in the Woods up here by Bill Bryson. That's about the AT. It's a dramatization of I mean, it actually happened, obviously,
They
but
made
it's
two movies about that, actually.
right.
I didn't
So I
even
mean,
know.
there's some stuff, but most of it's going to be the Alex Honnold stuff and the things where people are doing extreme things. That's the stuff that pops out and really gets, But I will say there's been when you look at the Everest stuff, because I watched a lot of it.
Same. I'm obsessed.
So Everest, Beyond the Limit, the series,
So good.
so great.
I haven't seen
On
this.
Amazon
Yeah.
Prime.
Yeah,
Dude, it's bonkers.
it's wild. So
There's like 3 seasons, 4
and it-
seasons.
Explain this.
at least I think it's 4.
Explain
but-
for the lay people.
So it's a so they're following so if you go climb Everest, you're going to be part of like a team, right? You have a guide and it's the leader of the expedition, the whole thing. So you pay to go be part of an expedition, they take you up. So this is following those expedition teams. And so you're basically following a group of like 5 sort of core team members and the expedition leader as they go about the process of climbing Everest.
Right.
Okay.
And it's
all the way from getting to the base camp,
right.
getting to Camp 1, acclimatization, going all the way up. There's some tragedy in it, and it is a real world type of documentary. It is very
it's
real.
It's the closest thing I've seen to like the act. I mean, you're actually kind of experiencing, at least through these other people, what it's like to go through, and like the expedition leader, and what I never really realized, but it's like a tryout the whole time, because every step you're taking to the next camp and everything, your expedition leader's watching you and is like, if you're not ready, he's like,
they're evaluating.
You're done. You're not going up.
Wow.
That makes sense.
So you're fighting for the summit the whole time by trying to prove yourself that you can do it. And at any point, the leader's just like, nope,
you're out.
You're gone.
Yeah.
And that happens to some of them. And then, there's, and obviously it's very dramatized and it's just cool, but there's people that are just hundreds of feet from the summit.
100 feet away.
And he's like,
you're gone. Go back.
You're done. You have to leave. And they're refusing to do it. And you're that high and they can't think anymore because
you're
they're like,
delusional.
you're too high, you're delusional,
and
and
stuff,
the Sherpas are like pulling them. They're like, we have to go. You're out of oxygen. We got to go. And it's like,
dude,
it's mind blowing.
There are times. I mean, like the movie Everest.
I'm feeling anxious thinking about it.
And Into Thin Air and stuff like that. That John Krakauer wrote and stuff. I mean, like there has been a lot of instances on the big mountains, Everest and K2 and
Rainier.
Not. I mean, there's been some stuff on Rainier, but Annapurna, like where people are 100 feet away, and their turnaround time is like an hour behind them when you're supposed to go back. You've already summited and you're supposed to be back, and they go, well, I'm 100 feet away. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go for it, and then they get and they die.
Yeah.
That was the decision that did it.
So like if you have a really good team leader that is like very strict on the turnaround time, I think that's it. It would definitely be hard to stomach.
Yeah,
because like you're right there, you can see it.
Yeah.
But to get 100 feet
takes like 2 hours.
Yeah,
It's insane.
Yeah.
And seeing that and obviously and now having the ability to capture that on
That's
camera
cool.
in a way
Unlike ever before.
It's unreal, like seeing it actually happen, because you would never think it's like, oh, it's high. No, it's not just high.
No,
it's a different planet.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And then you mentioned Into Thin Air, which in contrast to that, I mentioned it to you. I don't think you've watched it yet, but the movie Into Thin Air,
I haven't seen it yet.
From
No.
John Krakauer's book.
Yeah.
I would like the 4 of us to sit down and watch that and just.
You said it was bad, right?
It's
Because like
garbage.
Everest is amazing.
It's so good.
it's fantastic. And then it's like, let's hire a bunch of
Not
actors.
super accurate.
Yeah.
Let's hire actors to sit in a studio and pretend to climb Everest. It's
Yeah.
like, it is garbage.
And you know what? That's why
It's insulting.
I will
is
say,
what it is.
I have watched less movies about like reenactment movies, and that's why I like the documentary so much, because
Yes.
it is
Yes.
real.
Well,
You
and there's
can't
so much
recreate
out
it.
there
Yeah.
right now, right?
Yeah.
Like we are so unbelievably lucky. 20 years ago, this shit didn't exist.
Yeah.
There weren't, you weren't carrying these big cameras out there. Now it's a different game.
And I'll say the biggest blockbuster, and I mean, like you could, think like Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise climbing a mountain, or like anything extreme happening in a movie. I guarantee you watch Everest Beyond the Limit, like any of that, blows it out of the water.
Yeah.
It's you can't comprehend.
What's the Sylvester
it's nuts.
Stallone movie from the 80s?
Cliffhanger.
Yeah. Like anything they're doing now is like
Vertical Limit.
Vertical Limit, dude. Yeah.
Vertical Limit, dude. Yes.
It's like way cooler than
That was KT. They were on
that
KT
kind of
for that
stuff.
one.
It's pretty insane.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about 14 Peaks, which is like
I know.
one of the most
good.
incredible accomplishments of mountaineering to have happen. And I know that I think I read that someone beat his record.
Yes, she did.
But she was also helicoptering to like Camp 2 or Camp 1 or something like that.
I don't know
so
the
she
details
didn't
enough to
start
like,
at
talk
base
about
camp.
it.
I don't 100% know either. But Nims Persia, he did all 14 8,000 meter peaks in 7 fucking months.
Yeah.
And the previous record was, I think, 7 years.
I can't remember,
What did
but it was
Viesters
like
do it in?
absurd.
Viesters did it.
It was way longer than that.
Yeah, I think it was almost 12. I can't remember.
Because he was
absolutely
notably
bonkers.
better.
And he did it in a single climbing season. That is absolutely insane.
Crazy.
Because he had to get like permits to be able to climb things.
Him
Just the
getting into
logistics
China
of it.
was
The
like the hardest
logistics
part.
of
Yeah.
everything.
Just the logistics of
raising
it
the
are
money to be able to do
nightmarish.
it. And he also did it with like all
His
Sherpa
team was
teams too.
insane.
Yeah.
So like his team was bonkers good.
Yeah.
It
Crazy.
It was
And they even
one of
rescued
the-
somebody.
Yeah.
he's rescued a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but during that it's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
Like the amount of not even just athleticism, but the fucking balls and to be able to do something like that.
Was he on? Did that time up with? Was he on Everest when there was that big backlog?
Yes,
He
was.
Yes.
He took
that
the
was
picture.
part of the
That's
documentary.
He was
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
ones
yeah.
that took the picture
right?
for it, where there was that huge conga line of people just
such a big,
waiting to
massive
get up to
line.
the summit.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right on the Hillary Step,
Yeah.
which is like one of the biggest or the last crazy things that you have to go through in order to get to the summit. It's like
just backed up for
crazy
fucking ever.
like 300 people just in line, just waiting in the death zone
To
just
summit.
freezing to death, literally to get
Yeah.
to the summit.
Your body
and
is
then
eating
to get
itself.
back down because you have to go. There's there's not like an up and then a down space.
Right.
Like you have to go up and
Yeah,
down
it's
the
not
same
a fucking
road.
highway.
No.
It's a mountain.
It is not a 2-lane. It's crazy.
We're finishing up this episode here, so just some quick hits because we didn't get to talk about Into the Unknown.
We're gonna have to do.
which is
I didn't think that
great.
we were gonna. This was gonna be such a fun topic, but I'm having
We
a
didn't even
blast.
talk
We
about
didn't
any
even
of
talk
my-
about
my
that.
magazines.
stuff.
We got magazines
so much
here.
other. We're gonna have to continue
God.
this.
We'll
Part
do
two.
another episode.
We're gonna do a part 2.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a part 2 next week or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, we can come back and
There's
maybe
so
I'll
much.
maybe I'll watch a couple more that I haven't seen.
Well, here's
Yeah.
what I would say. Like
we
and-
have to
and-
watch the Into the what was the one? The bad
the
one.
movie, into
Into
thin air.
Thin Air,
Into
that
thin
one.
air, yeah. But for the listeners and anybody, if you aren't already, there's a plethora of these types of things.
plethora?
If you have Disney Plus, go check out the National Geographic
so
stuff.
much on there.
If you have
the best thing
Prime,
ever.
there's all this stuff. I mean, Meru's on Prime. I think at least it was at one point. But
I think a lot of stuff is on Prime.
Just go watch. It's so. Even if you're not at the point where you're like out there doing regular trips or maybe you're thinking about it or whatever, just watch this type of stuff.
It's beautiful.
Insane.
It's good
gorgeous.
storytelling.
Yeah.
We don't usually encourage you to sit on your couch inside all day,
Right.
but
if you're
for
going
here,
to-
we'll make an exception.
If you're going to, this is the way to do it.
After you watch this episode on YouTube, then you can go and watch one of the documentaries we just talked about.
Yeah.
Watch
We just
this on
planned out
YouTube
your whole
first.
evening.
You can
Yes.
also listen on
And
Spotify
then
if you prefer.
you can listen
Yeah.
on Spotify if you're in the car, something like that. But
Yes.
if you're sitting down on your couch, on your ass, not doing anything, plop YouTube on and watch this episode, and then watch Meru or
They're fun to
Free
watch.
Solo
They're fun to
or
watch
whatever.
while you're like packing for a trip or while you're like getting your. I do that sometimes.
Oh, dude, it hypes me
absolutely.
up
dude,
before a
I'll
trip.
throw
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I watch them the most. Is like
Dude,
the
I
week
I'll
coming
throw
up.
on.
Yeah, not following,
I
but
think
right before.
one trip I remember I threw on. I put Meru on and I was like laying my stuff out on the floor and like and
absolutely.
laying it on. It's just
like
it's such a zen
same,
moment.
Same day as when we leave.
Basically, yeah. Maybe the night before,
I'll
like
go
midnight.
months without watching like a documentary like this, and then I'll watch like 4 in a row.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm a binger.
Oh,
for sure.
I'm the complete opposite. I think I watch 1, maybe 2 a week.
I'm gonna watch one when I get home.
I might have to.
I'm more of a short form guy though.
Yeah.
Like I'm on YouTube.
Yeah?
YouTube is the death of me.
Really?
It's the
I think
distraction machine.
I need a long. Give me a hour and a half.
I want it to be like 25, 30 minutes, and then I can watch another
Get in,
one.
get out.
another one.
You know what I want?
Yeah, so then it comes out to 4 hours when you're all done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
right.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know what you guys are watching. I want to know if there's documentaries that we haven't talked about that you think that we should be watching. Let us know. Shoot us an email. The email is trailtheorypod@gmail.com. Like always, thank you for listening. Now, thank you for watching. I think, maybe, hopefully. Don't forget to tell your friends, and we will see you next time.
Tempui!
The Trail Theory Podcast is sponsored by Audimute and Audio Technica. Music by Dan Koch.